This is Mo Bashir for The Hook. We're here today at the Athlete Investor Summit, and I'm delighted to be joined by someone who has a very interesting story, Bobby Drewett. You are founder of Uno. Firstly, thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
How are you?
Yeah, very, very good. First time I've been to the Investor Summit. It was obviously a pleasure to speak on stage and now meet some really interesting people. Yeah, good day.
Awesome. So we'll get into it. Bobby, I read that you left school at 16. You became
16, straight
a
out.
quantity surveyor.
Yep, quick year.
You've since worked for yourself. You've tested and failed at many different businesses.
Correct.
What did you learn about yourself from those failures?
I think for me, not everything's a failure, you know. I think failure is a really, really strange word. I think it's always a lesson. I think that's the most important thing. And what I've understood about myself is I think it's resilience, you know, to be able to in some ways fail and, you know, not achieve what you set out to achieve and not get to the end goal. To go again in a new market, a new sector, it just shows the resilience you need. And by no means have we succeeded in what we're doing at Uno. But we're definitely on the right path, which is the most important thing.
Did you know you had that resilience early on, or was it something that you found out about yourself when you go through like certain things?
I mean, fortunately, I haven't been through anything personally in my life, you know, deaths or hard situations that have enabled me to be resilient. I think it's just come naturally with the will to succeed. I think that's the most important thing. When you want to succeed in something, whatever it may be, if it doesn't work out first time, you need to go again and again and again. And it might take 5-6 times. It might take 20 years. You know, I'm 36 now, so 20 years since I've left school, 18 years being self-employed. And yeah, there's been some really, really long nights, long days, some good ones, also some bad ones, like you mentioned.
It's quite interesting, right? Because talking about, you know, starting out and doing and failing, but what your last startup was actually quite successful. But I read that you couldn't. The reason why you couldn't go ahead with it was because you couldn't scale it up.
Yeah, and that's right. And it was my last business was in a catering industry. It was great. We had some incredible clients. We supplied the likes of Nobu, Zuma, top restaurants in London, and you know, it gave me a great pay packet, I think is the right word. It didn't give me a good quality of life. It was really difficult, you know, 3 a.m. starts, sleeping 2 hours in the afternoon, then going out and giving out price lists and speaking to potential clients, etc. You was really working 24 hours a day, and it was tough on myself, but that was a lot of my 20s. But I think if anything taught me hard work, it was that business. And I've applied a lot what I've learned in that business going forward.
How did you get into the catering business?
Catering, a friend used to work on the fruit and veg stalls, and I went to work with him on Saturdays when I was younger, and then we had the opportunity I had some connections in the nightlife space when I was younger, just from being young, going out, and we kind of put two and two together. This was nearly 20 years ago now, when cocktails were just first coming around, and we found a niche and thought we'd supply cocktail bars. You know, there was people have been supplying perishable goods in the catering industry for many, many years, but it's more traditional restaurants, hotels, that sort of thing. No one was playing in a niche, so we kind of looked at the cocktail bar space and thought, you know, that's what we're going to try and penetrate, and it worked. It was great, but it wasn't a long-term business, that's for sure. It was tough.
It's quite funny. It's like when you start a business, I guess the goal is to look at a problem and to bring a solution
Correct.
out of it. So when obviously you had that, how did you find the next problem and what did you do to build a solution, i.e. Uno?
Yeah, so building Uno come from, I was in my yard, my catering yard, and a friend of mine came and said, look, I want to start this luxury minibus business and work with stag and hen do's. And I thought it was honestly the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life. Last thing I want to do is deal with drunk groups of people every single day. So I said, look, the luxury minibus side is really, really cool, but I want to take it to the sports and entertainment industry. And that's what we did. And we built a really good practical business for 3 years. But the goal was always to condense into app format and be able to deliver executive luxury travel on demand. And I think working with athletes and high demanding people that need stuff and low patience, it was building a solution for that, for them to be able to not have to text a local chauffeuring company or email or what have you. It's bringing something to their device, which they use for everything else every single day.
Perfect. And just on that, did you leverage the connections you made from, like, obviously supplying high-end restaurants? Because I guess the clientele that go to those restaurants are footballers,
Every
musicians, actors.
single business has provided leverage in the next.
Okay.
There's whether it's contacts I've made, whether it's lessons, whether it's properties, whatever it may be, everything has played a hand in the next business.
So then how did you go? So was it, okay, so you had this idea.
Yep.
So it's all good having ideas. How did you, what was the next step? Was it to buy vehicles? Like, how does that work?
No, implementation, it was actually to sell vehicles. We had a practical chauffeur company at the time which had 6 vehicles, and the plan was really to build a network. That's the most important thing. We did that via building WhatsApp groups with supply, etc., and we had over 500-600 drivers in there. And now how do we convert that into a tech platform?
Sorry, the
Strip
private
assets.
chauffeuring business, that was something that you had as well?
Yeah, so that was our pathway to Uno.
Okay.
We understood that we had to understand the industry, build a great network, and then we can condense into app format and rebrand as Uno.
Okay. And then how does it compare? Was there anything else on the market at the time that was comparable to Uno?
Not when we started building pre-COVID. Coming out the other side of COVID, there's one competitor at the time. It was a Russian brand, Wheelie, who are still doing really, really well in London. And yeah, so we're alongside them in terms of competition. But I think there's not a lot out there. There's a lot of alternatives, but nothing like Uno, which brings together professional drivers of London at your fingertips.
And did you find, like, as soon as you launched it, that, like, the demand was already there?
There was a lot there, what we carried over from our previous business, but you've always got to generate new demand, and if you think it's there, there's always more. You can't ever sit and rest on what you've got, and we're still drumming up demand every single day, and I'm sure anyone with an Uber application will still receive 5 to 6 push notifications a week. They're a $1 trillion company, and they still need to push demand.
Is that through word of mouth? Is that how you get most of your
Word of mouth's really good. Obviously, simple marketing exercises, investor networks, personal networks, whatever it may be. But for a business that relies purely on service, I think word of mouth is the most important.
Cool. And then one of two. Many of Uno's clientele become investors.
Correct.
You got the likes of Mason Mount, Frank Smith, CEO of Matchroom, Trevor Shalabar, David Abrahamovich. And I guess that's a testament to your business model, is the fact that many users have turned into investors. How did that come about?
A number of different ways. We approach conversations differently as well, in a sense of, if people didn't understand the concept or didn't trust whatever it may be, you basically said, here is what we're doing, here is what we want to do. Just use the service first. So come and use the service, and that will answer a lot of your questions, and then we can kind of have the business conversations afterwards. So yeah, so it was flipped different ways.
Perfect. And then finally, how do you scale this? Is it are you wanting to enter new markets, new countries, new territories? How does that work?
Yeah, it's building supply firstly in different territories, which we're actively doing at the moment. We have a lot of demand in the US currently, which we're not actively pushing, but it's there. So it's building more supply first, and then demand will follow.
Perfect. I think we're getting ushered out. But Bobby, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you asking me questions. Thank you.